cheerful. This was number 60-something. There was a very large turnout. The Caldwell tribe provided the gratis meal, grilled sockeye salmon, grilled corn on the cob, salad, etc. She saw old friends and neighbors, some of whom had lost everything in the fire. It was good that day. They had a day of festivities. She was gratified to see the effects of an embracing community circle. She has speech number 10, titled The Circles of Our Lives.
Madam Postmaster and members. Don't start that yet. I'm having reactions to all the smoke, so if I pass out, do something. If you can't hear me, do something else. And so forth. Okay, I'm ready to start. We're all familiar with timelines. I got a magazine just today that had one in it, and I surveyed it, the line and the dates on it, and so forth, and the different events. Those are particularly important in our lives. But I want to suggest there's more, there are more different ways to measure time and activities. And I want to suggest that circles or loops capture the more human aspect of our lives. I want to take you with me as I look at a timeline and circle. Sometimes it's hard to separate them, that span 4 generations now and are in 2 continents. It all started at the upper reaches of the Menau Valley, which is where my mother grew up. A neighbor of that family was a young man, one of the family members, a young man named Robert, who was a member of the Van Clinton family. He would come over and help them with special chores such as haying and caring for their small dairy herd once in a while. And quite a delightful young man, the same age as my mother. When World War II broke out, he was drafted with most of the young men in the Menau Valley, or the Menau, as we natives say. He was one of 500 who volunteered for parachute activity. And he was one of the 148 who made it. He wrote a lot of letters home, often commenting on the weaponry. And I thought at first when I learned that, well, that sounds a little vicious. It was war and so forth. And I thought, he grew up hunting. Rifles and ammunition were part of his life. He also, in his letters home, talked about the vigorous training that they had to go through. 6 miles in 15 minutes, 115 miles in 3 days in full combat dress with weaponry. Very, very vigorous, very vigorous. He was up to it and he enjoyed it. But something that was also in his letters was an occasional comment about perhaps not making it back home. Now, whether that was a premonition or whether it was just a conventional comment, I have no idea. I'm inclined to think it was a bit of a premonition. By volunteering and being selected, he became a member of the Easy Company, Company E, 2nd Battalion, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, thank you. And the 101st Air Force, well, 101st Division. And I think your uncle was the 82nd Division. And I need to tell you right now that your comment on that occasion inspired me to choose this as my topic. Thank you. He was one of the 148, and when they embarked on Normandy, it was the night before D-Day, because they flew at night. They passed the fleet in going over, and the planes that took them, all of the paratroopers, there were 100, oh my goodness, there were 1,300 planes, I think, that flew out. There were 821 planes that carried the parachuters. I'm not going to go into any more figures there, so absolutely staggering that they defy imagination. You almost have to see movies of them or the old clips to get an idea of how many were involved. There were 1,900 parachuters. 1,900 parachuters. Something like 4,000 gliders. And when they parachuted, they went behind the enemy lines, of course, and it was a disaster. They were separated, many lost their weapons, they were way off target, some of them were shot down as they landed. It was a mess. They finally got together and moved forward into Holland, which by this time had been taken by Germany. Holland was captured. And they engaged at a very severe battle at Eindhoven, and then moved forward to another, and recaptured that town, by the way. And the fighting was absolutely ferocious. They moved on to another town, and it was at this particular battle that Bob Van Klinken was killed in action. The news reached home, and my older brother, who is a career military officer, said that he remembers as a kid going with our mother, we lived in Pateros by that time, up the Methow to the Van Klinken family to express the sympathies and the love that love felt. It's a very personal story. This is a neighbor. And the community gathered to spread their arms to embrace them in this loss. And there were so many others because of all the young men in the valley. In 1962, 18 years after Bob was killed in battle, my brother was stationed in Germany in the army. On one of his leaves, he went to the military grave in the Netherlands and was walking in this particular one. He said it was shaped like a fan. And so he would walk down the aisle, wide aisles, just glancing at names on the crosses for each. There were 8,500, each had a cross, of course. And then he took another route to come back to the starting point, which put the names on the crosses behind him. He stopped and occasionally turned around and looked. One time when he turned around and looked, he said he was stopped dead in his tracks. His eyes landed on the name Robert Van Klinken. 501st. What was it?
Parachute Infantry Regiment.
Thank you. 101st Air Force Division. And it gave the date of his death, which was the 22nd of September, 1944, and then the state, Washington. He confirmed with our mother that this was in fact Robert Van Klinken that we knew from stories that she knew personally. And then he later read the book Band of Brothers with the leader, and I'm going blank on the leader's name. I have lots of blanks this evening. It will come to me. Winters. Anyway, my brother called him and said, here's what I learned. Is this the Van Klinken who was part of your outfit? He said, yes, I remember him. I remember when he died, when he was KIA. Here's how it happened. He was a very good man. My brothers and sister and I decided that there were so many circles, so many loops in this story, so many embracing moments that we needed to do something to commemorate this friend of our mother's and this paratrooper who gave his life. We developed a scholarship to go to Liberty Bell High School, and a graduating senior was to get it, chosen by a committee, and we affirmed the choice. It's awarded every other year. And it lasts up to 4 years, as long as that student is still enrolled in a degree or certificate course of study. Another circle here. The first awardee happened to be the grandson of the doctor who cared for my parents in their older years in the Howe Valley. I believe these coincidences. This is just kind of blown my mind. This last time of awarding was this last May, and a couple from the Netherlands came. My brother and sister-in-law had met them on one of their trips over there, a couple probably in their 40s, whose grandparents had watched the paratroopers drop into Holland. And the Dutch have a deep love for the American World War II vets. They say, "You literally saved our country. You literally saved our country." And they adopt the graves. That is, they identify a grave that they want to honor by bringing decorations to it on special occasions or just for the love of doing that. And they had adopted Robert Van Clinton's grave. I get goosebumps and tears over this. Robert Van Clinton would have been 70 years after he died. He would be 94 in October, this October. It occurred to me yesterday, this just bogged my mind when it went ka-chunk. There is a movement in Tai Chi that is linear and oval and circular. And I thought, that's it. That says it all. I want to show it to you. And as I show it to you, and I hope I do it well, I want you to think about the choices that you and I will to make in our lives that consciously help support and develop others so that they may be Palladians. The movement is called Cloud Hands. And the movement is lateral with the feet and oval and circular with the hands and arms.